I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
Hey guys, it's Charlie from Confessions of a Business Owner here, and today I am joined by a very special guest and dear friend, Martin Ebongue. Now, earlier in the year, I was very, very fortunate to head over to Bali and get to meet Martin in person, and I kind of felt like it was a bit of a homecoming. Martin came across as someone like I feel like I'd known him for a very long time because we just seemed to agree on so many perspectives on business, even though it was our first interaction. So I'm very, very thrilled to bring him onto the show today. And the best way I can describe Martin, and even in the way he submitted his bio to me, is a serial entrepreneur and free spirit. And I think that's a very accurate description. But this was the best part: a man who refuses to live the life of sacrifice that most people consider inevitable. Almost bordering on philosophy there.
Yeah,
loved it a lot. So how are you doing, and welcome to the show?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's really an honor and a pleasure because I usually don't get to speak in like public and stuff, so I'm very, very happy. And plus, you know, it's with a like-minded friend, so yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'm very good, very good.
Well, I was very grateful that you were willing to come on the show because I know this is something, I guess you haven't necessarily been around a lot, but I feel like more people need to hear about the stuff you get up to and your points of view, because there's a lot of people that could use the help, in all honesty. And I was very appreciative of your perspective on many things when we're in Bali. So unfortunately, not everyone knows you as well as I do, though. So what's the best way you would describe your business and what you do?
My business is I would say it's a lifestyle business. That's pretty much how I would summarize it. And when I mean lifestyle business, it's tailored for my particular lifestyle, not anybody else's lifestyle. You know, as you know, people have a different definition of, freedom or what they want to do. And I have one that's very specific to me. So I tailored my business to be able to do what I want to do, which is, when I wake up in the morning, I can choose what I want to do. If I don't want to work, I don't work. If I want to travel, I travel. And if I want to spend my time researching and, creating new stuff, I will do it. So my business is just a vehicle for me to have the life that I want, like me specifically, because a lot of people might think that my life is strange. But yeah, it's just a vehicle to have the lifestyle that I want. That's how I'll describe it.
Well, if that's strange, I like this version of strange. So I think there's a key distinction in what you've said there. And this is one of the things that struck me the most about you, is that most business owners I meet, it feels like their life is at sacrifice to their business. So they only get to travel when they can based on their business needs, or they only get to spend time doing things they like based on or around what their business is getting up to. But you're the complete opposite. It's like you've really put your hand up and said, well, I come first. The business will work around what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
And even in this moment, where are you in the world?
Right now I'm in Bali, so enjoying the nice weather here. It's a very peaceful place. I really love this place, and it's very intellectually stimulating. So I spend a lot of time here in Bali when I'm not traveling, and I absolutely love this place.
I'll second that as well. I think it's a very awesome place to see, and something that everyone must check out in their lifetime. Now, I've brought you on the show for a specific reason, and that is to confess, to really lay down something from your own point of view. And I haven't even got the full story on this. You've only given me a little snippet of, like, you want to confess what has brought you the most success in business. So I'd really like to get into that story and hear from your point of view, what has brought you the most success?
So the way I will describe it, it will be in the form of a story. My story, basically what happened to me. From that you will understand, exactly what happened. So a few years ago, I started the business with a business partner, right? So it wasn't a good idea because I didn't know anything about the subject in question. At the time, it was way more important than today. Today, I found ways to go around that. But so we started this business where I was more in charge of, like admin and like finances and all that stuff, even though I suck at finances. And my business partner was in charge of like running the actual business because he was the one who actually had all the knowledge and knew how stuff worked. I had no idea.
What type
And
of business? Sorry, I'll just pause you there.
so
But what type of business was this?
So it was an agency model. So basically, we were building websites for people. So that was like a few years ago, like 6 or 7 years ago. So we're building websites for people. So basically, we had a client paying us. I mean, I'm just throwing out random numbers, right? Someone was paying like $1,000 for a website, and then we had someone doing the website for like 400, and then we're keeping the difference between the profit in the middle, right? So basically, you had to know a little bit about, I don't know, HTML and CSS and all that stuff that I don't know anything about, right? So I didn't know anything about it. I didn't want to know anything about it, and so I had a business partner who knew how that stuff worked. So everything was. So we got a bunch of clients early on. So it started like super good. And then after like a few weeks only, my business partner bailed out on me. So basically, I ended up with a business that I had to manage, and everything was, my name was in there. And I had absolutely no idea what the business was doing and how to, manage it, right? And so basically, I had to go and talk to the clients because, obviously, when you're in the agency model, the last thing you want is for your client to talk directly to the person who's actually doing the job, because they'll realize that, oh, I can have it way cheaper. So you basically have to be the middleman, and you have to relay the information. So
I'll pause you there because I don't think a lot of people would even know that, but I would say this is very common. So in the agency world, what you've just described is that many agencies actually aren't doing the work. They're perhaps using offshore labor or using offshore teams, and then they're acting as this middleman. So they're going and getting their clients and then having offshore teams doing the work, and then they're just kind of liaising that communication and adding value from client support or possibly strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
But you are correct. In a lot of cases, those resources are well-guarded secrets because there's the fear that the client will go direct, and do they really need the agency, which is a very, very common question.
Yeah, so that was my main concern. And so basically when that happened, when my business partner bailed out on me, I had two choices. So either I was just closing the business and then that's it, but I still had some clients who already paid and stuff, so I had to honor these contracts. Or I needed to find a way to make it work. And I chose the second option. I was like, well, let's try to figure out something. So I jumped in and started to fill in for him. So I basically ended up in meetings with a client who was telling me, Martin, for my website, I need. And I was like, what? Like, it was ancient Greek for me. So they wanted some CSS and they wanted this and that. It was like ancient Greek. So basically, after a certain number of, you sound unprofessional, right? So I asked, like a few times, and then I wrote something that doesn't make sense, obviously. I go back to the developer and I'm like, dude, we need this. And he's like, no, it doesn't make any sense. Go back to the client. So after a while, to make the story shorter, I realized that, the main problem in the business was me, right? So you have to let your ego aside and you have to realize that, dude, you're the bottleneck there. And the problem was me because I had no idea what I was doing. And for that company to work, I had to find a way to get out of that company. Because with me, it was doomed like for failure. That's where we're heading straight to the wall. And so this led me to, so basically what I did is I bought maybe 15 or 20 licenses of every project management like every product management tool I could find on the market, right? And I studied them. I did like benchmarks and stuff. I looked at every possible functionality that they had. And when I saw something that I liked, I ticked the box. I thought, oh yeah, I like this, I like that. So at the end of the day, it took me like a good month That's all I did, like night and day. And then I had a list of functionalities that I wanted because I wanted to create a platform that would allow me to have everything running without me. Right? So I took all these bits and pieces, I packaged them into a platform, and I found a developer, and I was like, dude, you need to create that for me. And they eventually did. So that's when I learned, kind of learned how to deal with developers and stuff. So in the end, what happened is the best thing that actually happened to me is that at that point, I realized that I could run a business that doesn't need me. All right. And that's what I've done afterwards, like all the businesses that I have right now, just like you. And that's the reason why we get along so well, is because that was the single most profitable thing that I did in my life, was investing all that time and money researching all these bits of software to be able to create something that was going to give me the life that I want. And from there, like everything took off. Like today I'm able to start like different businesses and stuff on that philosophy that it will work without me. So the way the tool worked, it was really awesome. It was like my client was talking to my developer, but he had no idea he was talking to the developer. He thought he was talking to me. My developer was talking to my client, but he had no idea who he was talking to. He just knew what he had to do. And basically me, I had a moderation tool that I put in the middle. And so I could moderate the clients mostly, because my provider, we had a contract and stuff. He wasn't in his best interest to steal one of my clients, because afterwards I'm not giving any more clients, So, what people have to understand is, there is a risk of having one of your clients go directly to your developer or whatever, but the developer is not a salesperson. He doesn't know how to get more clients. So he will basically get one client from you, and then that's it. And you stop, feeding him, like birds when they feed their babies. That's what you do for him as well. But you're bringing clients because he doesn't want to take care of all the marketing and sales and stuff. So I didn't have to monitor my business partner, that provider, but the client, sometimes the client's like, oh, I didn't pay $5,000 for this. And then he's like, dude, you're paying me like 2,000 and you're making 5,000. But yeah, the platform was really cool. And what I did was, because I worked in support for a good 4 years, and it taught me a lot of things. And one thing that I know, and that you guys all should be aware of, is a happy client is a well-informed client. That's it. It doesn't have to be good news.
I love that quote. I really, really love that quote. I think that every business can take something from it. A well-informed client is so important to every business. I completely agree.
Yeah. Like, for example, just an example, you get to the emergency room and they have you sitting there for like 3 hours. You'll go berserk. You'll go nuts. Nobody tells you anything. If you get there and they tell you, dude, the doctor's busy, you'll wait 3 hours, you're happy to wait. You waited 3 hours in both cases, but just because you've been informed, even though it wasn't good news, you were happy. All right. So me, what I did was, so when I created my platform, I made sure that whatever my developer was doing was updating the client automatically. And the client was informed like days and nights and stuff without me having to relay the information. Oh, okay. So we did this yesterday and blah, blah, blah. And that has been that story, that what happened to me and the way I reacted to it. So there are two things. So there's the situation I was in, the circumstances, and the way I decided to handle it. That basically was that horrible story is actually one of the best things that happened to me. And this change of mindset that I had became the best thing that ever happened to me, business-wise, because it triggered all sorts. Like, it was the floodgates were open for a lot of stuff that I'm doing today.
It's such a good story, and I'm so happy you shared it with me, because there's so many points I can relate to and so many that I think are nuggets of gold. But the one thing that kind of stands out for me is that when you look at your circumstance, like you'd been handed a business almost, or abandoned a business, like you're on a boat and the other guy just jumped ship. And what I find really interesting is there's not many people that would have solved or gone about this in the way that you have. So I'll give you a really good example. Is like many people at that point would have just quit and done something else. Let's say half people would have done that. But of the remaining people that said, I'm in and I'm going to do this, there's even a fewer that would have realized they were the problem. They would have actually just kept beating their head up against the wall, sticking as the bottleneck and the business.
Yeah.
And I mean, personally, I see that type of thing all the time. I see many business owners, even without their knowledge, are the biggest problem in their business, and like they're severely limiting the capabilities, but they can just never see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big problem. Is you know, I think I do have like a big ego for certain things, but I'm very like pragmatic, right? So I'm not emotionally. My decisions are not like emotionally based. So and plus I came from a background of troubleshooting. I was like, dude, where is the problem in this company? And I realized it was me. And I'm very pragmatic. I'm like, well, okay, if it's me, then I need to leave the pros. So basically, my take was I need to have the people who know what they're talking about to discuss that between themselves, and not having some rookie in the middle that doesn't understand anything. And you have to identify your strengths and your weaknesses. That's one thing. If you want to succeed in business, you have to understand what you're good at, what you're not good at, and what you're not good at. You need to let people who are really good at it do it. And I wasn't good at CSS and HTML and stuff. I was like, yeah, I'll just leave that for the pros, you know?
I like it. But see, that's what I think is really interesting in this story as well, is like you were able to identify, like you have a strength in, I would say, systems and troubleshooting. Like you're very, very systematic in your approach in, looking at the platforms and what was available and then coming up with a solution which ultimately had that. And I think that's a very unique skill set you have as well. So that's really cool. The other side of it is that this is something where it's like, in your approach to here, it's like, I wouldn't say anything you've done is rocket science. Okay. It's just a unique thinking. And don't get me wrong, it's very clever. I love it on many levels. But what I'm more saying is that it's not like you brought a physics degree approach.
Oh, no. Really not.
But instead you were able to apply where you were strong and do something that was extraordinary. And a lot of people just don't view it in that way. So you mentioned like ego in this a little bit from here, and that you were able to kind of remove the ego from the situation. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm coming to the end of my 20s now. I'm almost 30. But like, if I go back to my early 20s and kind of think about, well, where my ego was at even then, to dissolve my ego in that point would have been very challenging. So was there a way you went about kind of, I suppose, downgrading the ego or bringing that to an awareness?
Well, I'm very like driven, I will say, and so it's funny. There is what's the name of the guy? I think it's Simon Sinek.
Yep.
He wrote a book called Start with Why. And it's very funny because, so we have a friend in common, Brian, Brian Swan. So the first time we met, because I read books as well. And one of my chapters in one of my books was, you need to find your why, okay? And I had an end goal. My end goal was to be able to get out of that business and have that business run without me, whatever the cost was. If that meant that I had to put my ego aside and let other people do it, then I would have done it, whatever it took to get to that end goal. And once you have that why, why you want to do this, then all the decisions, like the decision was, is it taking me towards that goal or away from that goal? And me getting out of there, it was taking me towards that goal. And that's what really helped me, because I had this like clear vision of, why I want to do it.
That's so good. And I love that book. And guys, we'll make sure it's in the show notes as well. But I'm sure this one's an easy one to find and resource. Simon Sinek, Start with Why. And then he's even got another one called Finding Your Why, which is if you read the first one and you want to know how to find your own why, it was very, very helpful. I really enjoyed both those books, in fact. And it's like, when you know your why, kind of things change. Things really do change for you.
Yeah, exactly. So that was there's a wasp or whatever. So yeah, it was the deciding factor for me was, there is a greater good, I'll say. I don't know, there was a cause I was after. And yeah, I was willing to, make not sacrifices, but changes to achieve that.
I think it's very cool, and I almost can see it already. I already know the answer, but it's like, this seems to be your approach to business now. This seems to be that skill set you developed in that circumstance has now been your greatest strength into every business you go into now, or any project you take on.
Yes, it is. I mean, people, you've been advocating this for years, and so people don't realize the full extent of what it does, right? So a lot of people are focusing on getting more money, for example, like more revenue, more this, more that. And they think that if you're not in the business, you'll make less because you have to share it with people. But I will give you my experience, and I'm pretty sure it's your experience as well. So the first thing that I got out of there was, it's not giving me, it's the first thing it's giving me, it's my life, right? Which is priceless, right? It's my life. I can do what I want.
I'm just laughing, and it's not that I'm laughing at how many people wouldn't see that. Like, I completely agree. I'm like, it is so valuable.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't put a price tag on it. Like, if let's say, for example, if I made 100 and I needed 99 to have my life, I will give that 99 and keep that one. That's me, right? So it's giving me my life. But then afterwards, where a lot of people have it wrong is that they think that you're going to make less than you did before because you do have to pay other people. But my experience was that, just to give you like an analogy, like you drive every day to work, you're in your car, and you've done that road, for that same drive for like the last 20 years. And one day you're a passenger in the car. And when you're a passenger, you notice a lot of things that they've always been there, but you're too busy driving the damn car because otherwise you're going to crash. And that's what happened to me. So I hired an assistant to do like all the tasks that were not strategic and not like productive for me. And what happens is that so just to give you an example, I have a huge business where I work with clothing brands in France, and I generate leads for them and sales. And for 3 years, I was making about, for that one company, I was making about 2.5 million euros in sales for them, just for that one company, So I was like, dude, I don't need to go and do something else. I was very, very focused on that particular business. But once I had someone in my business who took care of all the campaigns and stuff, one day I started thinking, I'm like, so I focused on women's clothing, okay? And I was like, I have all these women in my database. Maybe some of them will be interested in weight loss products. Maybe. I had never thought about it because I was too busy, managing the company.
I'm not sure, but I hear that's a really small market. Like, the chances of women being interested in any form of health and fitness product, I don't think it could happen.
Yeah, man. And what happened was that, like, for 3 years, it was there. I could have started 3 years ago. And then I was like, well, I tried it, and it works like gangbusters. So instead of having one business, like one income stream, next thing you know, I had 2 of them. So I was making way more money than I was making before when I was managing the thing. And then from there, I was like, because now I have the time to be strategic and look for opportunities that they were right in front of my face. I didn't see them. And then I identified something else. Then I have another business that's rolling without me. And next thing you know, I have like 5 income streams now, and I'm making way more than I was making before. So the argument and the misconception that people have in their, about like outsourcing and stuff is, I understand where it's coming from, but it opens your mind. You have something called peace of mind, which is, it's priceless. You have the time to strategize and think and, find opportunities. And if you combine it with the habit that, I have developed and you have developed of, starting a business that runs without you, the only thing you have to do, you do a sprint for maybe a week, 2 weeks, or maybe a month to create another business. it runs without you, then you rest and you start another one. Next thing you know, you have a lot of different income streams, and life is great. You're making more than before. So that's that single experience taught me all that stuff. And today, that's the reason why I'm here today is because of this.
That is so cool. And I love that analogy. I must admit, I agree. It's quite interesting. Um, so I kind of relate in a lot of ways, but I kind of look at it that I feel most people that is chasing money. I really do. And I feel like that's why a lot of people stay stuck in their business is they're constantly thinking of like, how do I generate more revenue? How do I grow my sales? And there's very little thought into like, okay, well, how do I get more time? Look, you very rarely see anyone thinking in that. So it's only in my own experience is like I was so bogged down in a business that I couldn't take it anymore. And it became my single biggest priority of going, well, I'm only going to operate a business that doesn't need me. And it's certainly a learning experience, but it's so true about what comes from that when you've got the time, the opportunities. Like even now, this podcast only exists because I had the time. If I was bogged down working in outsourcing angels all the time, I couldn't do things like this or have these conversations, or I wouldn't have got to meet you in Bali. Like that opportunity wouldn't have existed.
Yes,
so
exactly.
People kind of like, it's the opportunity cost in not doing it that I think people don't necessarily see and should definitely have some attention drawn to. So I completely agree on that point as well. And then it's fascinating. I listened to you then and your approach to like what happens next, once you've got something like that set up. And it was like, for me, end of last year or maybe started this year, is like I started doing the podcast. But then once I'd built a system and learned how to do it, is we turned it into a service at Outsourcing Angels. So if people want to get a podcast done, it can be done at Outsourcing Angels. And that is another business that actually runs without me.
Yeah.
So it's funny how you get into this, like it becomes the habit and then you start adding things on. So it's like I had my little sprint, learned the little podcasting world and all the rest of it. Not that it's little, it was actually much bigger than I anticipated. But you develop that skill set into other things. And in your case, you were able to kind of add on a whole other income stream opportunities.
Yeah, and so the aim is not. When I see these other opportunities, I'm not actually running after the money and all that stuff. I'm running after the freedom that I want, for the choice that I want for my life. And my take is, you're vulnerable if you only have like one income stream. So I try to make sure I have a bunch of them just in case something happens. I still have the peace of mind, because that's, and there's an evolution in terms of when you're an entrepreneur, there's an evolution of who you are as a person, and your goals will change. So me, for example, when I started, when you start, your first goal is to make more money, because that money will allow you to like quit your job and all that stuff. So that was my first goal. I was like, dude, I need to make some money. And then afterwards, once you start, working and stuff, and you realize that, there's a lot of work involved, then you want more time. And when I have a chat with people, they either want more money or more time. But I tell them sometimes, these are silly examples, but you can have more money in your current job, but you will work 3 times more and you'll be exhausted. So money alone is not, it's not what you should be after, because there are some cases where you can have all the money in the world, but you don't have time to enjoy it. And you can have all the time in the world, but that might be because you're unemployed and stuff, and you have zero money. And what I've realized that's 10 times more valuable than money and time is peace of mind. Like peace of mind when you can go to bed and you don't have to worry about anything, like how you're going to pay your bills, or how is this going to be done tomorrow? I need to wake up to do this and to do that. This is priceless. So this is what I'm going after, is peace of mind more than money. So one example will be, if I have a client, for example, who's giving me a hard time, he's paying me money, right? But he's giving me a hard time and I have to deal with that person. I won't deal with them, because that it's conflicting with my peace of mind. I want peace of mind. So that's what I'm after today, and everything I do is motivated by this.
I think that's awesome, and I love that. That's a value of yours, clearly. I find that myself, I'm even seeking things out for the enjoyment more now. Like, again, the podcast is like, it wasn't something that was necessarily like a financial decision. It was an experience that I wanted to have. And
Yeah.
it's like, there's a certain beauty to being able to, have the peace of mind and freedom to take on those things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure we could bang on about this all day, but I want to ask a question for you then, because like this is something we're both, I think it's a very strong area for both of us, and it's an area we both enjoy. But for
Yeah.
someone that isn't at this stage, for someone that perhaps is listening to this podcast and going, hang on, my business completely needs me and my lifestyle is not fantastic. Where do you think people should start? How do they get started with this approach?
Well, they just the way I will start. I started, so after designing this, I started looking for like a way to design a system to do like everything running without me, not necessarily with this platform, and it was just running some sort of like diagnostic. I don't know how to say. It's very technical or very like troubleshooting, but you look at what you're doing today, right? So, there's the Pareto principle that, the 80-20, you start there. You start to, you identify the 20%, the task that will generate 80% of your revenue. Okay. So it will take you, I don't know, like a day max or half a day. So you look at everything you're doing right now, and you try to put a number in front of it saying, well, this is crucial for my business. And, I have some sort of like expertise. I'm the only one who can do that, right? So if you identify tasks like this, where, there's only you right now who can do it, keep those, you'll start there, and then you get rid of the rest. Okay. You don't have to get rid of everything at once because it's overwhelming otherwise. Just identify what you can give to other people, and what you do is you are doing it every day, right? So every day you have to do it. Next time you do it, just screencast it, and you just talk. Like, it's not like you're doing anything out of the ordinary. You're just doing your job, but you're just talking, and that will be the last time you ever do it. And then afterwards, you find someone to take these tasks for you. So you can start with, like, I don't know, a friend, a family member or something, where it's not going to cost you too much, but just getting rid of those tasks. And unfortunately, in most cases, this is what people focus on instead of focusing on what actually matters. You will see a big difference in, like your health, your ability to think, to strategize, and you can get rid of at least 50% of what you're doing right now. And once you get better at this, then all these tasks that, for now require you can find a way to get rid of them. But just go by steps, right? Don't baby steps. Don't try to get rid of everything in one go, because there's a learning curve as well. It's not like you can, tomorrow have a business that runs without you. Start small.
It's definitely a skill set. It definitely is. So there is, I would agree on that. And I like it because I have a similar approach. And what's interesting is we've both done this, but it's not like we did it together. We didn't even know each other at those points. So like, what's fascinating is how similar, because it's very challenging to, I guess, find people thinking this way. It isn't the common thought pattern, I believe. So when I look at this, it's like, I agree. And like, my go-to when starting with people is doing an audit, or in your case, the diagnostic, where it's like, you've got to go through and identify, what is your business actually doing and what of it requires you and doesn't require you. And like, that filter can be amazing. But once you understand that, what I love is you can shape a business to deliver things that don't need you. So it's like, that's where the magic comes from, is like, once you're aware, and I use the personal training analogy really well. It's like, if you own a gym and you're selling one-on-one training, and you just keep selling the one-on-one training, then of course your business is going to need you because you're selling the one-on-one. But if you hire a coach and you sell them doing one-on-one, then you're now selling things that don't require you, or if you're selling a membership. So it's like, blatantly, I tend to see that it's like, well, if you just stop selling the shit that you need to do and start selling things that you can get other people to do, or tools or software or assets or leverage in other ways, it's like, you're going to have a much better time.
Yeah.
But I think you nailed something huge there. I think you nailed something really well about the Pareto principle, the 80-20. Do you find that most business owners are actually spending their time on a lot of things that doesn't find a result? Like, it's actually a waste of time and energy.
Oh yeah. And I'm saying a lot of business owners, me too, man. Like it happens. Sometimes I have to hit myself like, dude, focus on, instead of focusing on tiny little details and spending time like, oh, the social media this, and you have to do 3 hours of research to find how you put this emoji there, and you just lost time. Yeah, it happens to me as well. So yeah, it's a very big problem. And somehow, I don't know how it works, but the trivial tasks are the ones where you spend the most time on. And yeah, it's absolutely necessary for you to identify the ones you should stick to, and yeah, the rest you can get rid of them pretty quickly. Okay, and again, designing the whole system is really not complicated. You don't have, because sometimes you feel like you have to mount this big project. No, you're doing it every day. Either way, just record it. That's it. And there's one thing that I tell people, and they're very surprised, and this is something, in my system, is any task that will require internet, I want to get rid of it. And people are like, why? And I'm like, dude, my aim is, for example, my aim is to be free, able to travel as much as I want, go in the woods for like 3 weeks if I want to. And if those tasks that require internet are still in my possession, what do I do when I'm in the woods? It contradicts what my end goal. So my end goal is to be able to have everything done while I'm in the plane. And if that task requires internet, then I'm screwed, right? So always having my end goal in mind, I'm like, everything that requires internet, I need to give it to someone else, because that's what I want to do. I want to be able to, be in the plane or be not in the woods. I'm scared of wolves and bears and stuff and rabbits and stuff, but
That's okay. They're scary things, but that's kind of kicking it up to that next level. So in the beginning, for a lot of people, it's like their version of freedom would be just getting away from anything that requires them being in a location. So the internet is like the safe haven. They're like, well, if I could run my whole business from a computer, then I can travel. But then it doesn't necessarily mean they have, the time. But it's like, if you can go completely internet independent, like not needing the net at all, even though I reckon you can get internet in most places in the world now, it just kind of kicks up that mindset and approach to business. So very interesting insight, Martin. I enjoy hearing these things.
Yeah, that will be like a level 2, I'll say. So first, you make sure that the only thing you need is the internet to run your business in the beginning. But at the end of the day, it's always looking at my angle. What is it that you would like to be able to do? And when you look at it, well, I would like to be able to spend all my day at the waterfalls and stuff. Then if you want to do that, you need to get rid of these tasks. If you always have that in mind, then these are simple decisions.
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the things that's interesting from my point of view is like something that helped me tremendously was having great mentors and hanging around other business owners that were, striving to do big things. Have you found that beneficial for you? Is there mentors you have that have helped you on this journey, or groups you participate in?
It's actually I have two people, but at very, very, very beginning of my career, who really, really helped me and shaped who I was when I was working in corporate, because I was working in the corporate world before studying all that stuff. And they've been of like tremendous help, and they helped me get this like hunger for knowledge and putting the effort to learn stuff when it's not required of you. So when I started in my first company, I was working in an anti-spam company. So we were designing like spam filters and stuff. And the company was a startup, which was really awesome. And when you join the company, you're assigned a mentor. So someone who had been there for like maybe a year, 2 years, whatever. It could show you like the ropes and stuff. And I had this guy. His name is Dominic Young, and he doesn't know it, but he's the best mentor I've had. And we were the same age, right? So it doesn't have to be like Einstein or someone who's like 70 or whatever. He taught me a lot of things about the willingness to learn more when it's not required of them. So we were both working in support, but he wanted to get to other departments. So he was getting some training outside of work. He was always shadowing people and asking them, dude, how does that work? and studying everything. And he gave me that work ethic that really helped me down the road. And my manager at the time, her name is Joanne Warner, and that was 10 years ago. And last year I sent her an email saying thank you for everything you've done, like 9 years afterwards, right? Because she helped me become a better person of like managing the way I manage my teams, and like it was like the hierarchy in the companies where I was working, even in my company today, it's flat, right? It's not like you have your boss who is there and everybody's afraid of the boss and stuff. It's a collaboration. Me, the only advantage I'll have over you guys maybe is that maybe I've done that before. I just have more experience than you. Doesn't mean that I'm better. If I give you the training, you might be able to do the same thing. So we collaborate. And that helped me tremendously build my company today. The people I have in my company, we've been working together for the last 5 years. They're the best people I can find. And when I give them a task, I always tell them why. What's the overall thing? Why we're doing it, and what's their role in that overall process. What happens after they've done their job? Because if they realize that, well, if I screw up here, someone will have to spend 3 hours doing this and that, and allowed me to build a super company where everybody's happy to work with me. People can work from wherever they want. They can go to the mountain, the beach and stuff. And yeah, these people, they don't know it, but they were the best mentors for me as a person in terms of values, more than in terms of like strategies, like business strategies. They basically give me, a big part of who I am now.
Well, that's fantastic. No, it's a fantastic answer. And I loved a lot of the things you've shared there. And it's like, as I said, it's like we were reunited in Bali, Martin. It really didn't feel like our first interaction, because it's like I really believe in that stuff from a team point of view as well, is because it's like when you include people in the dynamic and bring them in on the whole vision, is like they feel empowered and the culture improves and everything comes with it. Like you just kind of, maybe knowing it or maybe not, like just absolutely dropped like a nugget of gold on team building and culture within the company. And I think it's also really great that you've been able to reflect on mentors that, maybe weren't even in the business space, but can recognize how they've shaped where you are really, really well.
Yeah, I think it's priceless. At the end of the day, like a business, a business is not some sort of like object or something. It's a collaboration between people. That's all it is. The business is people. And I remember in my very last company, I was like number 2 in the company. So my boss was like number 1, the CEO. We had like reviews and stuff so I was number 2 for the French market, and we had reviews. So he took me in the review at the end of the year, and he was like, dude, I have the impression that you have zero dedication for the company. And I was like, yeah, I have zero dedication for this company. And he was like shocked. But I was like, but I have dedication to you and to my team. And this is who I'm dedicated to. It's not, the company is not my company, and tomorrow I can change company. But these people, today, I left that job like 5 years ago. Every time I go back to France, we eat together. When they came to Bali, they stay at my place. We do a lot of things together. Because I'm dedicated to the people, and I'm dedicated to the people in my company today, and I include them in everything. So when I give them a process, for example, so I design a system, and I tell them the best person to know how this should be done is not me. It's the person who's doing it. Okay, so I'm giving you some guidelines, and if there is any way to make it better, like we have 10 steps, if you find a way to make it in 9 steps, by any means do it. It's not set in stone. I want you guys to not execute, but think about it. Because when you have more brains seeing it from different perspectives, you come up with awesome stuff. Like me, I have people in my team, they came up with awesome stuff. And I'm like, dude, how did I not think about it? Because, and it makes everybody go move forward together, and it makes it like better.
Absolutely, and I agree. And I've noticed that particularly myself in my own team is like the people that are doing well and engaged and involved, they bring great things to the table and it's worth listening to. Like you
Yeah,
don't feel like you have to be the one that's the key contributor to everything. Like you've got that enforcement with you, which is so, so cool.
yeah.
Now, Martin, this kind of brings us to the end of this episode, dude. It's been an
All
amazing
right.
chat, and I feel like I've grown a little bit for having the conversation or reinforced a
All
lot of
right.
the ideas that I think are just so brilliant. So, if people want to learn more about you, and I know you're a bit of a mystery man, we couldn't actually name any companies on this episode due to you've got some big things coming out that can't be named publicly yet. But I'll back and say that Martin's got some extremely cool stuff happening behind the scenes, and he's a man to follow. Where can someone come if they want to get your books or learn more about you or anything like that?
Oh, gee. I think, I mean, for now, the best way would be, oh, gee. I'll say maybe Facebook, something like that, I guess. Because, I mean, yeah, as you were saying, I'm a bit of a mystery man because what I wanted, again, my angle was I want to be able to do everything I want, and I want to be low key. I don't want people to bug me and stuff. So I made sure that I do everything. Nobody knows what I'm doing. So I haven't created too many. Well, I actually did. So I told you I've written like 6 or 7 books, maybe something like that. But I was using a pen name so that nobody knows who I am and stuff. But now the more I chat with with people like those masterminds that we attended together where we were both speakers, makes me realize when I talk to all the attendees that there is some value that I can bring them in terms of my experience and some different aspects. So I'm actually thinking about creating like some sort of like podcasts and classes and courses and all that stuff. But I still need to get to do it. So right now I'll say maybe my Facebook will be the easiest one.
I'll tell you what, if
Then
anyone does contact us, we'll be sure to hook them up. And I completely
yeah,
agree that you should be putting something out there. I think you've got a lot of value to add. And there's so many things we haven't even discussed on this podcast. So we'll call it from here. Thank you so much,
right.
Martin, the international man of mystery.
Yeah, that's me.
What we'll end up calling this podcast after this. But so thrilled to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. It's really a pleasure. I mean, whatever I can do, if you want me for another episode or discuss something, I'm more than happy to jump by. No problem.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that. We'll have you back
Oh,
for a
man.
repeat. And I think we might even talk teams next based on this discussion. But
Yeah, sure.
we will liaise off air and talk about another episode. But I'll wrap this one up from here. Thank
All
you so
right.
much for tuning into the show, guys. That's it from me and Martin. Have a great day.
Have a good day, everybody.